Hi, I'm Charlie. I'm going to talk you through how to market yourself as a photographer today. Marketing's a really broad area. You could spend all your time busy getting on with all your marketing activities, but I know you've got the business of being a photographer to get on with. So today I'm going to hopefully show you all of the really important aspects of marketing and your brand, so that you can make an effective marketing plan and keep growing your business. I know it's been a really hard year for the industry, and hopefully the good news is that because marketing is changing all the time, if you can stay ahead of the changes and actually engage with all of this, then you'll be in a really fantastic position to keep going in the industry and to keep growing and make the most of all of the sort of the digital marketing options in particular that are available to us all now. Okay, so important to mention that actually it's really useful if you can keep your marketing targeted and straightforward. There is no point making 100 different plans and comms plan, marketing plan, business plan. Keep it simple. You've got to make it realistic, otherwise none of this is ever going to work. It's just not going to happen. That's the advice I give to my clients. It's what worked really well when we were at the AOP. So it's understanding all of this and then implementing a really effective but realistic plan that will work for you. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to talk you through creating some strong brand foundations. So this is your brand strategy document that you'll constantly refer to when you're creating your marketing materials afterwards. Okay, so this is the DNA of your brand. Now, you might know all of this in your head. You might know exactly all the sort of nuts and bolts of your brand, but it's really, really useful to have it all written down. It will be your toolkit that you can refer back to time and time again when you need to, give an interview, do a Q&A, write a press release, put a poster together, whatever it is. Use your brand strategy document to create all of your marketing materials. Okay, so what is in your brand strategy document? First of all, write down your goals. Really important to know what it is broadly or specifically you want from your business. Okay, if you don't know where you want to be, it's really hard to give your marketing any direction and also to measure it. So write down your goals. Really important to have them in your mind. Next, think about your target customer. So there's so much thinking you could do around this. So first of all, it's important to consider who you think your target customer is, but then also do some research and some digging and check whether the person that you imagine to be your target customer is actually a target customer. So think about the kind of who they are, who is it, what kind of ages, what kind of professions are there? Is it a massive group of people? Is it a very small niche group of people that you're targeting? Consider whether, if it's very niche, is it big enough to sustain your business? Do you need to think a bit bigger? Are there any other people that you haven't considered that might also be a good target market? Just do a lot of thinking about this. Try and write down a list of who they are, where they live, what they read, what their behaviour is, as much as possible, because we're going to try and reach these people, so we need to know who they are. Okay. Next, write down your brand story. This is quite a fun one, I always think. This is simply the story of where you got to where you are now. So how you got there. Have you always been a photographer? Have you always specialised in such and such? Pick out the interesting anecdotal bits of the story of your brand. Make sure that it's not too long, but give enough detail, because this is all about trying to establish relationships with people. So people are curious. They want to know all of this fun, interesting stuff about you. Okay, so write it all down. Your brand values. Depending on what kind of photographer you are, you might be corporate, you might be animals and children. We want to know a bit about what you stand for. So again, this is all about creating the relationships with your target audience, and they will want to know a little bit more about you because it's just an important part of the photography business. Okay, next biggie, your key messages. Now, this is simply writing down the main facts about your business, who you are, what you do, what you deliver. It's amazing again to sort of see how many people don't do this and struggle to articulate what it is they do. So just really important. It's a really useful exercise. It sounds a bit strange, but just write down all the main facts about your business, which also leads me to creating your positioning statement. So this is also known as an elevator script sometimes. Imagine you were stuck in an elevator with your dream client and you had about 30 seconds to introduce yourself and explain why your business is relevant to them. So really useful exercise because we all come across people who ask you what you do, and sometimes you fudge it, and actually it's just really useful to be able to explain it in an articulate, clear, non-jargony way. So have a practice of writing it down and also saying it, because chances are you will definitely be in that situation where you're asked what you do. So it's good to have a good answer. Also think about any comparative brands. So look at any other brands that are similar to yours, and are they doing things that, do they, it's hard to know about pricing, but have a look at what other people are doing and see where you might be falling down, just to make sure that there's, if there are any easy wins, we can sort of improve things. So it's just a really useful exercise. Making sure that you're on the right social platforms, making sure your website's up to date and looking as good as it should be, that kind of thing. It's just a useful exercise looking at comparative brands. Okay, and your visual identity. So you'll obviously have a visual identity from your website and business card and social media presence, but it's actually quite useful to have this all in your brand strategy document, just so that it's there to refer to. So what are your brand colours, what fonts you use, what sizes do you use on the fonts, all of that sort of really basic information, but it's all here as your reference document, so that if people need something in a hurry, you know exactly what your visual identity is all about. It's just purely for reference at this stage. Okay, so that is all in your brand strategy document. You refer to it, you keep it. You might need to tweak it and update it from time to time, but essentially it's there to refer to when you're creating your marketing materials. Which leads me on to your marketing action plan. So basically now we know what your brand's all about. Your marketing action plan will refer to all the different marketing touch points that you have. I'm going to go through each one and explain a little bit of the sort of really important information about each one. You might not need to do all of these, but you'll do quite a lot of them. We're talking kind of social media, website, that kind of thing. I call them touch points. It's basically all about building relationships with your target audience. Okay, so these are simply ways of communicating your key messages and your values and your story with your target audience. Okay, so that is what I call your touch points. So let's have a look at them now. Okay, I'll start off with website, because I think that's quite a sort of a good place to start. From a marketing point of view, your about section of your website is a really great opportunity to tell people about yourself and get some of your key messages across. It doesn't have to be a list of your key messages, but it can be a bit of a mixture of your brand story and your key messages. So make sure that you do get these things across, because this is what you want. You want people to know why you're different from your competitors. You know, what you're all about, what are your values, what can you give them that other people might not be able to. Okay, so make sure that your about section is doing you justice. Okay. Blog section, I get asked this quite often. You don't need to have a blog. If you enjoy writing, you like writing, you're good at it, then great. Have a section, you might call it blog, journal, but make sure that you create content and you post the full piece of content in this section, because then you'll obviously break it up and post smaller chunks of it for your social media. But your blog section, if you're going to do that, this is where you house the long form content. Okay. I'm not going to go into any more detail about the website, but you're very welcome to email me questions and I can answer whatever you like. Next one, because it's a biggie, I'm going to go into social media. First of all, what platform to use? Obviously, being visually led, Instagram is the obvious choice for photographers. That is what I would suggest to everybody. There is a place for Facebook as well, because it's still very well used. And also don't forget about LinkedIn, because that's actually really well used now. And using scheduling software means that actually posting it on a couple of different platforms isn't going to be a huge amount more work. Twitter, less used these days, but really it's a personal choice. I'd say Instagram is a definite must, Facebook if you want to, and LinkedIn possibly, yes. And it's important to say as well, Facebook Creator is a really great tool and it's free. So if you're thinking about using a bit of scheduling software, then think about doing that one, because that is quite an easy, and you'll save a bit of money. Let's think about what you're actually going to post then, your content. Try and remember that you're not selling photography on social media. You are trying to communicate your brand story, your brand values, okay? I think people often fall into the trap of just trying to sell, and that is not very engaging with the audience. Try and think about posting everything about what you do and what you are interested in, but don't make it too salesy. I always use the 80-20 rule of thumb for my content. So 80% of what you post is just interesting content. Thinking back to your target audience, what might they be interested in? Post about that. Exhibitions you've been to, things that you've been doing on the weekend. Whatever it is, it can't be too salesy. Definitely kind of supporting the industry, any kind of news, that's always really great. Any behind the scenes shots, really fun. Any anecdotes or funny things that have happened, brilliant. But don't make it too salesy. So then the other 20% can be salesy. This can be like, this is what, if you've got a book to plug or an exhibition to shout about, that can be the 20%. But just remember to remember your ratios, basically. I always like to create a formula so that I know what to post and when. So I might make up a grid of, like a 10-day formula, so that I can see that I'm not going to make my posts too salesy. So work out what you're going to post and when, what you're inspired by. That's always a really nice one. Some personal projects are massively important, like really, really important to share what you've been doing. There is an expectation from art buyers and commissioners that you will be sharing your personal projects, so don't shy away from that. Let me think what else is there. But yeah, and also because you're a photographer, you want the overall look and feel of your feed to be really beautiful and striking and reflect what you do. So it should reflect your style. And so I think having a formula of what to post on which day can really help you to sort of imagine how that's going to look. And there's also obviously software that you can upload before actually posting it live. You can put it onto certain apps so that you can see how things might look. So you could think about having a colour palette for your Instagram feed, for example, or you might have sort of gradient colours, so going from the black and whites into another colour, into, you know, so think about your content really, really hard, because this is an area that commissioners will look at now. It's an extension of your portfolio, so it's really important to invest some time into getting it really right. Okay. Other things about social media: who to follow. Definitely make sure that you're following all of your target market as much as you know who they are. So if that's a brand or people that work for brands, you can do some digging. Say if you work in sports photography, you want to be sort of following all the people that work in the marketing departments of all the big sports brands, right? All of the journalists, really important. These are your audience. You want them to follow you back. The first thing that you can do is to follow them and engage with them. Social media isn't about just posting pretty pictures. It's about having a conversation. So everything that you write, your captions are also very, very important. Things that you write do get read, and there's an expectation that if people write comments that you need to reply to them. It's all about building relationships. So think of it as a conversation and not just a series of adverts. Okay, so this is something that a lot of people do, and I think it's a really, really simple, easy win if you can really consider what you post and just make it, just think of it, you're not selling photography, you're having a conversation with your target audience, and that will really change everything for you. It can really it can be a really pivotal point in making your feed a much more engaging, targeted marketing tool. Hashtags, yes, very, very useful. So it's good to use a mixture of really broad and then really niche hashtags. There is no point in using hashtag photography. There's too many posts there. It's just going to be completely lost. But try and go really niche. So, for example, black and white portrait photographer. That's going to be a lot more niche, and just tell people immediately what you're all about. So think about, do a bit of research and look at how many posts there are in specific hashtags, and try and go for as small as possible number. Okay. Your bio, really important to get so pick out the most important key message and add that and include a call to action. So how someone is going to contact you. If there's anything that you can give away, or a tip or something that you can give your audience immediately, then that would be a really good place to put that as well. So people are really interested in having kind of expert advice. So if you could include something like, see link in bio for tips of how to take a fantastic black and white photo on your iPhone, for example. Any snippet of information then you could give them in your bio would be really great. But definitely key message, call to action, and how to contact you. Okay. Don't be shy with your Instagram stories. They're so popular. They're very well, there's massive audience for it. So definitely, if you're not doing it currently, please have a go and get involved with those, because that is a really great way of showing a really authentic side of you. It sounds very cheesy, doesn't it? But it's showing, so especially kind of behind the scenes footage, really good. Or maybe you're on the way to a shoot, maybe you're having a walk somewhere, but just this is a way of being completely open to your audience. And I think it's really important for photographers not to think they have to always just post the polished, finished image, because there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes than just your finished image. Okay, so we want to know everything that you've been up to. People are curious, they want to know all this stuff. So get involved with your stories, even if it's sort of your daily walk somewhere, or it's you've met somebody who was really inspiring. Just some aspect of your business that people will want to know about and they can relate to. And again, it's just all about building relationships, okay? I think I've talked quite a lot about social media, but do send me through your questions because I'm always very keen to answer those. Don't know how long I've been going for, but here we go. Next, your email marketing and your newsletters. So do remember that with every single email, this is an extension of your brand. It's another brand touch point. It's another opportunity to tell people a little bit about you. So definitely have something in your email signature, any news that you want to share, whether that's an upcoming exhibition or your latest project, you can include a call to action there, but really great opportunity to communicate something in the bottom of your email. And again, thinking back to your brand strategy, thinking about your the tone of voice and your look and feel, think about the language you use in your emails, because actually that will really give people a big clue about who you are, and it'll either, it could really help them to warm to you and to want to meet up with you and use you as a photographer eventually. So that's always worth bearing in mind. Your newsletters, I think it's great to send out newsletters. It's better to send fewer newsletters than bombard people. So save up your good quality content and news and projects and any work that you've been busy with, and send them out. Better to do it kind of quarterly, monthly at the very most, than any more frequent than that. Even if you did it twice a year, that would be great. Make sure that obviously your images are take sort of center stage. As a photographer, people will want to see what you've been up to, and that will be really exciting for them. So don't be shy with your newsletters. Try and make sure that you are building up a really good mailing list all the time. Back to your website, have a really easy sign up for your newsletter pop up or somewhere very obvious, because it's always good to be building up your mailing list all the time so that you can tell people about your news. Okay, there is an expectation that you will tell people when you've got something to shout about, so don't be shy. What else was I going to talk to you about? Blog, we've touched on that in the website section. So if you like writing, then wonderful, and do think about your values and what you stand for as a business, and write about that. People are curious, and that again will give you really great content for your social media platforms. So you can house it in your website, but then also use that content for your newsletters, for your emails, for your social media. So it's kind of using every bit of content that you create. You can use it across all your different marketing touch points. Okay. I think we're running out of time, so I'm going to go quickly. Advertising. The brilliant thing about advertising now, especially if you're going to go advertising on Facebook, LinkedIn, any of the sort of social platforms, you can be so targeted now. Actually, you don't have to spend a fortune. And as photographers, you're in the fortunate position of having wonderful content already. So it's definitely an area worth exploring. You don't have to spend a fortune. You can look at your target audience and be like massively specific about it. So definitely consider it. Again, ask me any questions, email through your questions, and I'll try and help if you've got any specific questions about that. PR, really worth trying to put a bit of time into PR. So there's kind of different sections, different aspects of this that you could get busy with. So first of all, you'll need to build up a mailing list, it takes a lot of time, it's time consuming, but anyone can do it. Okay, this is really thinking about your target audience and then drilling down until you found a person and an email address, and you simply put that in your mailing list. Okay, and then you do that across the board. So you could build up a small list, go for sort of 10, 20 contacts, and then as time goes on, you could, even if you spent half a day a week trying to focus on your PR, it would be a really good investment of your time. Then when you've got news, you simply write a press release and then you send it to your targets, to your mailing list. So it's really worth, it's a big area. So I'll just give you the sort of headline news. Writing press releases can be a really great way of getting some brilliant press coverage. So definitely worth doing. It is a time-consuming exercise, but it can be really, really worthwhile, very beneficial to your brand, having someone else talk about you, obviously. So think about doing that, and save up for when you've got a really big, juicy bit of news and lead with that. Always lead with some bullet points of headlines so that you can make it really clear and obvious what it is that you're telling them and make it really newsworthy. Okay, it's no point in trying to get press coverage for every tiny little thing that happens, but like big juicy news, go for it. It'd be really great for your brand. Okay, I know that printed materials aren't so, especially in this climate, we're not producing so many events and big shows currently, but really worth having, again, from your brand strategy, you will have your visual identity and your sort of layouts of how things will be, so that if you do create any printed materials, you know the kind of identity and the look and feel that you're going for. Pretty much everyone still has a business card, right? So make sure, I'm always a massive fan of a really beautiful business card. I think if you're not going to do anything else, at least have that. Be memorable. Nice quality stock always works very well. And then again, if you're going to produce any flyers and posters for any events that you might be doing, maybe not now, but hopefully soon, then make sure they're all consistent. You want a consistent brand, so all your touch points look like they're from the same family, it's got the same DNA, so just make sure that that is the case for you. Okay. I usually would talk about exhibitions and events here. I think I've run out of time, but if you've got any questions, then email me them through. And very quickly, I was going to go through a couple of very common marketing questions from photographers. One that I get asked all the time: can you use Instagram to sell yourself? Well, I think it's important to tell people about your brand, what you stand for, and show them the work that you do so that they know your style, they know what you're all about. So I guess it is selling yourself, but don't make it overtly selling. So you're telling people about you and you're starting a conversation. You want to create those relationships, okay? What do I do if I have more than one specialism? So what I always say for this is, if your specialisms have the same target audience broadly, then you can have the same platforms for them. If they are completely different brands, then it's worth having 2 different websites, 2 different social media platforms for them. So it really depends how very different they are, whether they need to be housed together or separately. Okay. How do I market? How do I measure my marketing? So marketing can be really hard to measure, but with digital marketing, it's much easier now. You can have a look at the stats on Instagram, for example, and see how many people are engaging, how many people have found you through your hashtags. But also, I think it's a really good exercise to constantly review your activities. Give your touch points a mark out of 10. Do you think there's anything that you could be doing better? Could you be doing more of something? Ask some people you know. See if you can ask a good friend for their advice. And if you're scoring less than a kind of 8 out of 10, then maybe have a look at what you could be doing better in that area. Okay, I think we've totally run out of time, but if you've got any questions, please email them me through. I'm really happy to answer anything, any questions or problems that you might have, and I hope you found this useful. Okay, bye for now.